Hi, I'm Justin Boyd,
Hi, I'm Franklin Cooper.
and we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. Today we are here to venture into the Spider-Verse. That's right. This week, the sequel, the movie Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse hits theaters. And so we're going to get you ready for that movie by looking at the first animated Spider-Man movie that came out a few years ago. That was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So let's get to the Spider-Verse facts real quick before we get Frank's thoughts on the movie. Into the Spider-Verse came out December 14th, 2018, with a box office of 384 million, a budget of only 90. So this movie made some money. A runtime of 1 hour 57 minutes. It was directed by Bob Perschetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. But probably more famously, it's produced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the guys behind the Lego movie, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, all that kind of stuff. And the cast includes Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Hailee Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, Lily Tomlin, Luna Lauren Vélez, John Mulaney, Kimiko Glenn, Zoe Kravitz, Kathryn Hahn, Chris Pine, Nicolas Cage, and Liev Schreiber. So, Frank, this is, we talked about a lot of movies over the years, but this is probably the first movie I can remember that won the Academy Award. This movie won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2018, and I think it's definitely it's definitely deserving of the award. What are your overall thoughts of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Well, first off, I didn't know the budget was $90 million. That's crazy for an animated film. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know if that's the going rate for animated films, but it made its money's worth for sure. Like, cause
yeah,
like the graphics itself, man, like was just amazing. I was a big Miles Morales fan going into this movie.
yeah,
So like I have a good background in Miles Morales and what he means to the comic book community, especially the black community of
mhm,
having because there's so many different Spider-Mans and Spider-Women across the Spideyverse and multiverse. So to actually have a story about, a Afro-Latino Spider-Man is dope. But no, this movie was great, man. Like I didn't think I would get so emotional watching
yeah,
it. And because like, reading the comic books, I knew Peter Parker in that um multiverse was gonna die, but like seeing it play out in the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh shit, they getting serious because his death was like brutal. Like he got beat to death by
yeah.
Kingpin. So when they set that tone, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be dark. But no, no, they did that, man. The graphics were great, the storyline was wonderful, the voice acting was wonderful. Like I didn't know Mulaney was in it, the comedian. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
he's Peter Porker Spider-Ham.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I mean, so you have a great cast voicing these people, and yeah, like it created so much of a huge interest now that people want a live action Miles Morales, and like I think that was the goal for this production team, like to get so much generated interest to where you couldn't get more.
Yeah.
I mean that you want more. So I don't know if the goal was to create a sequel, but the following was so powerful afterwards. Because like I had so many friends and family who didn't even know Miles Morales was even a thing that became newfound fans.
Yeah.
So this movie was groundbreaking, man. It was groundbreaking because it created a cult following and it got new fans who weren't comic book fans to begin with. So nah, I loved it, man. I think I saw it like 5 times in theaters.
Yeah, this movie is I think this is the best animated movie I've ever seen. I'm not a big animated guy, but like this is the best one I think I've seen. It's one of the best superhero movies ever, and it's like a comic book come to life. Like the artwork, the visuals, like it's really incredible. After I saw this movie and I saw it like right when it came out that December in 2018, I was like, man, from now on, if they would want to make superhero movies like this is the way to go because this looks incredible. I mean, literally, there are parts where it is a comic book where there's like panels and you're flipping the pages and seeing what they're saying. You've got the quote bubbles and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And then you mentioned the fact about Miles Morales. I had heard of Miles Morales because he was created in 2011 by writer Brian Michael Bendis and by the uh, the artist's name is Sarah. Let me see in my notes here. Sarah Sarah Pichelli. So those two people created Miles Morales in 2011, and he was a part of the. And Frank, I'll get into this with you because you know more about this than I do. But this was a character I'd heard of, but I didn't really know the character too much. So this is really my introduction to the character and his story. And I think they absolutely nailed it. This is, I mentioned how much it made. It's the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie, but I think that's solely because it was animated. And I think after the success of this one and the fact that it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, I believe the new one that's coming out this week, I think it's going to make double that, if not more. I think it's going to make $700 million because I think people are really excited. And also, I think that when the first one came out, there wasn't a lot of buzz around it. Like it was kind of weird how like there wasn't a lot of talk. It just kind of came out like a few weeks before Christmas, and I think I saw it 3 times in theaters. I was like, this is awesome. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen, one of the best superhero movies easily. But, yeah, I expect big things for the sequel because, this movie is phenomenal, and from all the early reports and early reviews, people are saying that Across the Spider-Verse is even better. So, we're in for a special treat when we get to see that sequel.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I know. Remember, Spider-Man: Homecoming came out years back. So like a lot of the comic book heads, including myself, got super excited because there was a huge Easter egg in that movie. There's a part in that movie where Peter Parker, Tom Holland's character, approaches um, Donald Glover's character, who plays Aaron,
Yeah.
who's a petty thief, and people don't, and a lot of people didn't catch that, but um, as Peter Parker walks off, Aaron is talking to someone on the phone, and he calls him, and he says, I think he calls him Miles, and that was the Easter egg there because like those
Yeah.
rumors for years that Don Glover was supposed to play a live action Miles Morales in a
Right.
future film. He's older now, but like that's when I feel like the interest kind of generated with comic book fans. But you make a good point. I feel like people didn't know much about Miles Morales,
Mhm.
and because it was an animated film, it wasn't much expectation. But I think it's gonna make more than double, only for the simple fact that the last Spider-Man movie, even though it's totally unrelated, but the last Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, makes so much money, and I feel
Right.
like people are still kind of thirsty for more Spider-Man content. And now with the Writers Guild strike, we don't know when we get another live-action Spider-Man movie. So I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of that thirstiness and interest is gonna spill over to this movie coming out this Friday or Thursday night. So I can't wait to see the future of this film. I mean, there's been rumors of I don't watch Stranger Things, but there's been rumors that that kid in Stranger Things might play Miles Morales in a live action film as well.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of interest and buzz going on for the last couple of years now. After the Spider-Man movie, and I can't wait to see because they can go so many different routes. And now with the multiverse coming out with the MCU right now, this multiverse period, um, I mean, it could be a perfect time to like really have an Easter egg of them coming out and doing a Miles Morales Easter egg in one of these movies coming out, doing this Kane Dynasty era. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting for the standpoint that we don't know what's coming, and Marvel has been very very quiet and still about what the plans are going to be. I think Justin's offline right now, so I'll keep it going. But yeah, man, for those who are watching, man, chime in, tell me your thoughts about what do y'all think you guys are gonna expect for the Spider-Man movie? Is gonna make more? Do you think it might be some Easter eggs going to the MCU? What are your thoughts? What's up, Jay?
Sorry about that. I had a technical problem. I lost connection for some reason. This is
No
had a lot of
problem.
problems lately, so thanks for holding it down. But yeah, no, building off what you were saying, you're talking about No Way Home. Actually, there are some kind of similarities between this and Spider-Verse. With No Way Home and Spider-Verse. It both are multiversal stories. And who knows, maybe we'll see Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire pop up in Across the Spider-Verse. I haven't heard any like, definitive rumors or, anything and obviously I wouldn't want to know because that would be a spoiler, but that could definitely happen. So look out for that. But hey, before we get too far down the road, I just want to say, hey, thanks to Melly Mel for joining us. We appreciate you checking us out. Thanks for joining us for the live chat. Um, but Frank, get back to Miles Morales. Let's talk about more about his history or your background with Miles Morales. As I said, he came out in 2011. he was a part of the Ultimates comic, Ultimates universe. Is that what Marvel called it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man. So the stories is a bit different in the comic books. So pretty much what happens is that Doc Ock has his Sinister Six, right? So Doc Ock, Rhino, they're fighting Peter Parker, and his Aunt May is in peril. So
Mhm.
he fights off the Sinister Six, but while fighting them off, he gets severely wounded and he dies. So when he dies, while that's going on simultaneously, Miles Morales, gets bit by a spider as well, in this universe, and his powers are a bit different. Like he has a super agility and super strength, but one of his differences is that he can shoot natural spider webs. The original Peter Parker can't do that. He used gadgets. He has invisibility ability as well, and he can shoot plasma through his webs as well. So his powers are a bit different and more unique, but that's origin story of how he came about. So the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man didn't even begin with Miles Morales. It began with that version of Peter Parker. So and now it's Miles now. So it was at that time it was a very risque move to make because
Mhm.
Peter Parker. So you have Spectacular Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man. So to kill off this Peter Parker in this universe, which was a high-selling comic book at this time, was very risky, man, but it paid off. And I think it paid off too because you have so many other iterations of Peter Parker, like in Spectacular Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, and we see that in this movie where we see, as you mentioned before, one of those most surprising moments when I first saw this movie was when we see the Peter Parker of Miles's universe, voiced by Chris Pine, when we see him die. Like that is, I mean, that's a really shocking scene. It's like 20 minutes into the movie, and then this Spider-Man is dead, and I didn't think we were going to see that. I thought, maybe like going into the movie, I thought, okay, you know, the Spider-Man of that universe gets lost or trapped in some other dimension or whatever. But to have Kingpin kill him off like right there, that was a strong start for the movie, and it really made bring in Peter B. Parker, who was voiced by Jake Johnson, really made that character kind of stand out, and all the other Spider characters were great too. Are those characters like Spider Ham and Spider Man Noir and Penny Parker, who is like SPDR? She has her mech robot Spider Man. Are those characters from the comics that you read also?
I haven't read those comics. I'm not even sure they're in the comics. If they are, they're probably in the Madam Web comic book line
Yeah.
because Madam Web deals with all the other different Spider-Mans across the multiverse. So I'm not familiar with those Spider-Man, but I'm familiar with Mayday Parker, who was another multiverse iteration of Peter Parker. Mayday Parker is the daughter of Mary Jane and Peter Parker, like 50 years into the future of an alternate timeline. Ben Riley, Spider Man, who's a Spider Man clone.
Mhm.
Miguel O'Hara, which is Spider Man 2099, which will be in this movie as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I those Spider Men in the last movie I wasn't familiar with, but there's so many Spider Mans, man, like thousands of Spider Mans from the multiverse, and um, so I don't know what route they're gonna take. From the previews, it looked like that Miguel is probably gonna be an adversary in
Yeah.
this Spider-Man movie. He's more of an anti-hero. He's more like he kills. So it's like he's a different Spider-Man from the other iterations of Peter Parker and Miles Morales. He doesn't mind getting his hands bloody and dirty.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see like a difference in ideologies between Miles and Miguel.
Yeah, and Miguel O'Hara, like you mentioned, Spider-Man 2099, he's briefly seen at the end of Into the Spider-Verse. There's like a little post-credit scene where you see him, and yeah, you're right. And across the Spider-Verse, there's gonna be so many different versions of Spider-Man, like video game versions. And like I said, don't be surprised if you see Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, or Tobey Maguire, their version of the character in the movie for a quick cameo, because looks like they're pulling out all the stops. And with Spider Verse, what's interesting, so this is going to be at least a trilogy. So Across the Spider Verse comes out this week, and next March, I mean, not even a year away, is Beyond the Spider Verse. So they've already got. In fact, they worked on Beyond the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse at the same time. So they're dropping one, here in a few days, and they're dropping the next one in next March 2024. So we're gonna get a lot of Spider-Verse stuff, and I doubt that's the end of it, but it could lead to, you know, we finish Miles Morales' animated story, which leads to Miles Morales' live action. That's my prediction or what I think they're gonna do, but who knows? It might be so successful they want to have two running separately. You could have both.
I think so too. I think, and to take it a step further, Justin, I think we get not only a live action Miles Morales, if not a movie, a cameo,
Yeah.
but I think we do get a Miles Morales cameo before the next Spider-Man movie comes out. I think all this is going to be synced together in some form or fashion. Because like this it's really, I think it's beyond a coincidence that we are in the multiverse period right now with the MCU,
Mhm.
and this is gonna be a long period. Like, I mean, I think Avengers comes out in the next like 5 years or 4 years. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a Miles Morales iteration for the live action, because with the Writers Guild strike, who knows when we get another Spider-Man? They haven't even wrote the script yet. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it could take another 3 or 4 years before we even get one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a Miles Morales feature, just to like ease like the tension of like not getting a Spider-Man movie soon.
Yeah. Yeah. My only thing about bringing Miles into the MCU is I feel like whoever is Spider-Man in his universe it shouldn't be Tom Holland because Tom Holland is so young looking. I mean, even now, Tom Holland's like what, 25, 26. And hell, in 30 and 30, in like 10 years, he's going to look, just as young or about the same age. So don't you think you need an older looking Spider-Man to be like a mentor to Miles? Like, I feel like if they brought back Tobey Maguire for that, that would be perfect. Or even Andrew Garfield, he would be a perfect like mentor to Miles. Whereas Tom Holland's version, which is great, of Spider-Man, I just feel like he's too young to be taking someone under his wing and whoever the actor is that they get to play Miles will probably look older than Tom Holland. So to me, that's kind of something that's kind of they're gonna have to work that out, and I'm sure they will. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Or I mean, they could keep Tom Holland and just bring in Garfield,
Yeah,
or a whole new different Spider-Man from another multiverse, a whole different Peter Parker, a older Peter Parker, more battered veteran Peter Parker.
Mhm.
But I do agree with. I mean, Tom Holland's a young guy. He's in his mid 20s. If Miles was to be um, integrated into the Spideyverse, he might be what, 15, 16. So the look between Miles and Tom Holland's Peter Parker won't be so far off as far as like how they look age wise. But yeah, I think, I mean, there's already been plans about Garfield coming back for the Sony production of Spider-Man. So
Mhm.
I mean, you could get more Garfield, and he loves playing Spider-Man. Andrew loves playing for Spider-Man. Like, he's one of the few guys that wants to come back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does come back and in some form or fashion is involved. This Spider-Man, so this animated Spider-Man series, is this a Sony production?
Oh yeah, it's all Sony.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised if Garfield comes back for that. Um, because I mean, they're creating a whole Spideyverse. You have
yeah, they've got one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Craven, Mobius. You
the two
have
Venom
Venom.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah, the two Venom movies. So I won't be surprised if they just bring in Miles Morales and I think too, just to like spice it up a little bit and make sure he has a support to have one of the past Spider-Man, whether it's Toby or Garfield, to like be his sidekick, or like kind
yeah,
of like that Tony Stark Spider-Man
yeah.
situation that you had in the MCU. Have that for the Sony production as well.
Yeah, I feel like you could keep Tom Holland in the MCU. He could be MCU Spider-Man, and then you could have Garfield or Maguire be uh be Miles's Spider-Man. Be the mentor Spider-Man. And then if you want to do the killing off storyline, you could do that. You know, that would probably work pretty well with either one of those characters or with those versions of the character. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming up. I mean, like you said, there's a Spider Woman movie in production, or there's the one with Sydney Sweeney. She's Madam Web. That's the
Madam
one she's
Web.
in. But that's
Hmm.
also a Spider-Man universe movie
Yep.
without a Spider-Man. Although there's rumors that there is a Spider-Man in that movie, but it's one that we're not sure. I don't. I think it's like they casted somebody, and I don't think it's somebody you even see their face. It's just like Spider Man is there, but you don't really, you don't really focus on him. So
which is so weird to me, man. I don't like it when they have like these spin-offs and you have like a big hero in this publication and you don't show their face. It's
yeah,
kind of like when was that Shazam, the first one when they had Superman but they didn't show his face.
yeah,
Like like show the face, man. Show, like actually have a character in there. It doesn't have to be in the whole movie to like steal away from the focus of the spin-off character, but like have him in there, man. Let's keep it interesting.
yeah. No, no doubt about that. So what one thing about this movie, and one thing that's different with Miles from Peter is Miles still has his family. He's still with it. I mean, obviously he's a little bit younger than Peter. He's like Miles is like what 13, 14, maybe 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So in this movie, you've got Miles, who was voiced by Shameik Moore, and you've got his father, who is voiced by Tyree Henry. You have his mother, who is Lauren Lauren Luna Velez, who I wasn't familiar with. She plays Rio Morales, and then you have Mahershala Ali as Aaron Davis slash the Prowler. Talk about what you think about the family dynamic of Miles as compared to Peter, who typically only has Aunt May remaining.
I loved it because I think what people gotta be careful of, or like producers and like writers gotta be careful of, is when you bring a spin-off character, whether it's a Batwoman or a Supergirl or whatever, a
Mhm.
iteration from the main entity, you don't want to replicate the same origin story down to the T
Yeah.
because it becomes redundant and boring, right? So like you need to bring a you need to bring a whole new audience in, a whole new perspective in, and the fact that he's Afro Latino and has a African American father and a Latino mother who are still present, and a, a uncle who's in and out of prison like that I guess perspective is just so unique and so different that I think it helps bring in a whole new audience of people to say, oh, he looks like me. Oh, he has an Afro Latino, mother and a African American father. Okay, well, he's from Lower East Side Brooklyn. I can relate to this. So it brings a different aspect to where new fans can relate to, even old fans can relate to, So I like it. I like it a lot because that character has so many dynamics, and there are still some similarities. Like Miles is brilliant, but he's lazy at times, and
Mhm.
he got bit by a spider and things of that nature. But like the vital differences, I think, is what makes Miles such a special character.
Yeah, and I think this movie was kind of the perfect way to introduce him to a lot of people like myself who wasn't that familiar. And this is like to me, this is such a smart way to pass the mantle on. Like the way they did this. You can't like if you want to attract different audiences and you want to, reach different people of different backgrounds. The way they did this with Miles, having him be like biracial and having his powers slightly different than Spider-Man. He's got the Venom blast, he's got the invisibility in addition to all the other Spider-Man powers that Peter has that we've seen for years and years. I just think it was like a really smart way to introduce this character and pass on the mantle of Spider-Man, but like it's got a twist to it. It's got the story's a little bit different. I like his suit. I mean, the aesthetics of everything. He's got the Jordans on in the movie, which I thought were really cool. The Jordan ones. He's got the hoodie on. He's got the black suit, which is kind of similar to the Venom symbiote thing, right? But then he has the
Hmm.
red pinstripes. I don't know. It's just a cool looking suit. I think they really just the look of this movie they nailed. I mean, without question, it looks amazing. It's like honestly, how did they make this movie? Because
Hmm.
I'd never seen anything similar, and I haven't seen things since then that's like anywhere on the level of this. This is like it's like Pixar on steroids.
Yeah, and another thing I love about the first movie too is that even though you have a Peter Parker in the movie, the one after, I mean, the one that's played by what's his name? He's played by Jake Johnson.
Mhm.
That Peter Parker was not the focal point because it's so easy to like bring in
Yeah,
a Peter Parker and get away from the spin-off character like Miles Morales. They still made Miles the focal point, and you saw his arc of becoming a new hero trying to find his way, and having Peter Parker kind of in the background as somebody who can mentor him and Spider Gwen as well, and they still kept him as a centralized character in the film, which it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous having the Peter Parker
Yeah.
in there for the whole movie, and people just focusing on that Peter Parker because he's the homegrown Marvel number one Marvel person in the comic books, and people are familiarized with him. So to be able to get that story going with Peter Parker in the whole movie was great.
Yeah, and getting to some of like the bigger moments in the movie. Yeah, I mentioned when the first Spider-Man dies, that's pretty shocking. But like when Miles like learns that the Prowler is his uncle, his uncle is like his hero, and then he finds out that his uncle is now part of Fisk's group who helped kill Spider-Man. It's like he has this like a this crazy he sees it happen before his eyes, and then like his uncle's after him. Of course, his uncle doesn't know that he's this new Spider-Man. But what were your thoughts on Mahershala Ali playing this character and just the Prowler in general? And what kind of history do you have with the Prowler character?
Yeah, he's a petty thief in the comic books. He is him and Miles had some battles in the comic books as well. And they didn't know for a long time that each other were family. So Mahershala Ali playing him in the movie was awesome. The minute I heard his voice, Mahershala Ali's voice is so stoic, and
Yeah.
the minute I heard him, I'm like, oh shit, that's Mahershala Ali.
Mm.
Um, no, he's an adversary, and this went on for forever in the comic books. We didn't know who Uncle Aaron was until like I think I want to say issue 12. I never finished that issue, so I don't know if he died in the comic books or not. But um, he got all his power from all his abilities from Kingpin and Smythe's tech. So he's a vital villain in that world, along with Rhino and Doc Ock as well. So I was kind of sad that they killed him off so early in this movie. I was kind of hoping to see him in a couple more movies, and to see that going back adversarial connection between him and Miles. But no, I mean, Mahershala did a great job playing him, man. I'm glad that we are going to keep Mahershala in the Marvel universe and playing Blade in the next couple of years too. So, yeah, I was a big fan of the Prowler.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the Blade movie whenever that might come out. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Sticking with the villains for a second, I was not familiar with this version of the Green Goblin, where the Goblin is like, I don't know, 10 times the size of the Hulk. Is this a Goblin from the comics?
No, not from the Miles Morales storyline. That's
Okay.
not no. That was made for the movie. I mean, there might be a iteration of Goblin in one of the
Yeah.
multiverses, but in the main in that multiverse, I want to say the 1816 multiverse. He's not that big. No,
Okay.
not at all. That was some straight from the movie.
Yeah, because I thought that was kind of crazy. Like, when the goblins chasing after the original Peter Parker in the movie, I'm like, that's the Green Goblin. Like, it's not Norman Osborn. Like, what's going on here with that? But definitely was a cool look. And there's things in this movie because it's multiversal. Because like, their Fisk has this collider there. He's trying to bring back a version of his family that his wife and his son died, and he's trying to bring them back. That's what opens up the multiverse. That's why we get all these other multidimensional characters in the multiverse. And there's a lot of stuff that you could kind of only do in this movie. I mean, sure, No Way Home also dealt with the multiverse, and I think it did it very well. Obviously, it's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. But I think the way this movie, a lot of the action in this movie toward the end, and when the collider's involved, it works best in animation because it would just be CGI. It'd be a CGI fest if it were a live action movie. So making it animated, you can see all these like crazy colors, and you're not so much focused on like where are they fighting? They're fighting on the side of a building. Like I've seen the movie a couple of times, and it's like that part of it's kind of confusing. But that's why I think the medium of animation works really well with the crazy multi-dimensional story they're trying to tell. Um, So another villain that is a little bit different take on is Doc Ock, who is voiced by Kathryn Hahn. She plays Dr. Olivia Liv Octavius. Um, ha- are you familiar with there ever being a female Doc Ock in the comics?
I read a Madam Web issue where there was a female Doctor Oct. Um, incarnation, but
Mm,
in the ultimate one, it's still Dr. Octavius because he was part of the Sinister Six that killed the first Peter Parker. So
mm,
that was again that's a character that was taken from another multiverse and brought into the movie itself.
okay. Yeah, I thought this like they changed up the gender for Doc Ock, but I think it really worked in this movie. Kathryn Hahn obviously is great. She's
Hmm.
in the MCU now. She'll be here around for a while. It seems like, but I thought that was a good spin on that character because initially you don't really know who that. I mean, from the outside you see this like scientist lady, and you're like, okay, fine, and then you get the reveal that she's Doc Ock. So
Hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool, and then the fact that she's the one working for Fisk, for Kingpin, trying to create this collider where he can hopefully be reunited with his family. It was a good spin on uh on the character of Doc Ock, and also just was a big plot point. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. Getting some other members of the cast. Let's talk about Spider Gwen, voiced by Hailee Steinfeld, who also is in the MCU. you know, as another character.
Right.
Um, Gwen Stacy. What did you know about this character? I know you know, the one cool thing about this movie is as each character is introduced, they kind of give their quick origin, like with a comic book in the background. I think that's a really cool touch for this movie. But what we know with this character, she's been Spider Woman for like 2 years, so she's got a leg up on Miles.
Hmm.
But what's your kind of background with Spider Gwen, Gwen Stacy?
Yeah, Ghost Spider. She was part of. Oh my gosh, what do they call it? Ghost Spider in the comic books.
Mm,
But Spider Gwen is like a nickname for her as well. She debuted like a couple years after the Miles Morales line debuted, and she in that in that universe, Peter Parker dies, and she becomes Spider Woman because of the guilt of having a best friend die. They didn't date but they were best friends.
okay.
So she takes a mantle of Spider Woman slash Ghost Spider, and she debuted. I want to say it might have been the Edge of Spider Verse, um, which is a different comic book line, and it isn't. She's not in the Miles Morales universe at all.
Mm,
But Marvel did like this spin-off series of like different Spider-Men and Spider-Women, and they did a Edge of the Spider-Verse line about her, and it did great actually. Those rumors that she was supposed to get her own movie at one point because the comic line did so good. So I thought it was a smart move to actually bring it into this movie to kind of combine different characters from different multiverses into this, and it makes sense. Like they did a great job of like finding like the right recipe for success, bringing in different like Spider-Man and Spider-Women from different multiverses, even though they're not from Miles's multiverse and that Peter
mhm.
Parker's multiverse. But she was a popular character, man. Her and Spider Noir, they had a popular comic book line for a couple of years. I don't know if they're still going or not, um, but that was a very interesting Spider line as well. The main, of course, people know the main Spider-Man. I want to say Spectacular Spider-Man, Green Goblin stomped her neck when Spider-Man trying to save her. So, and there was a lot of like character outrage when she died. So that was Marvel's creative way of bringing her back, but in a different incarnation in that particular universe.
Right. Yeah, because we've seen Gwen Stacy die. Spoilers, but she dies in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So
Hmm.
we've seen that character perish before. So yeah, I really enjoyed the character. She's definitely like you can tell she's definitely probably the most competent of all the Spider-Men. Or spider people or spider individuals in this movie. She knows
Hmm.
what she's doing. Um, I think it was a cool way to introduce this character. Again, this is not a character I was super familiar with. I knew Gwen Stacy, but I didn't know the fact that she became a version of Spider-Man. So, like once again, this movie was really good to introduce the characters. And Spider-Man Noir is another one I wasn't familiar with at all. He's a black and white Spider-Man from the
Hmm.
1930s. He's like a private investigator or whatever, crime fighter investigator, and voiced by Nicolas Cage, which is it's pretty cool to get Nicolas Cage to do this character. I mean, the character's not in the movie a ton, but it's a pretty good cameo and a pretty good use of Nicolas Cage, and the character looks cool. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was a great it was a great when I saw him, I screamed in the movie theaters because I was a big Spider Noir fan, and
Yeah.
the whole comic books, if you read the comic, it's all in black and white, like it's
Mhm.
all in black and white, and it has a Dick Tracy 1950s vibe to it, and like it's very chic, it's very dark. I think that's Spider that Spider-Man uses guns, so he's a very
Yep.
he's a deadly Spider-Man. He don't fuck around. But yeah, he's one of those guys. I would love to see a Spider Noir movie. I really would. I don't know how you would do it. I don't know if you just keep the whole style black and white, but it'll be great to see him live as well. I'm a fan of like 15 different Spider-Mans in the comic books, man. Like to see three of them, four of them come out in this movie was just great, and to have that team of Spider-Man, like I can't wait for this movie to come out because from the previews alone, you see about 50 Spider-Men and Spider-Women.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's gonna be kind of cool to see which ones they decide to bring out for this movie. But
Yeah.
this Peter Parker thing, man, like to really this is the only publication that I can think of that has so many incarnations of Spider-Man that so many of them have their own comic book following and their own like
Mhm.
popularity to it. Like I know they try with Batman and Spider and Superman, with different Superboy comic books and Supergirl and all that kind of stuff. But for some reason with Spider-Man, this series they do it just hits. Like people they do a great job of diversifying all these different Spider-Men and Spider-Women and creating more dialogue. And I think if more comic books did that with like Batman and Superman and had like a Latino Superman or Asian American Batgirl or whatever, I
Mhm.
think it will diversify the following and create more followers and fans. And I think Marvel knows what they're doing, man, with this Miles Morales, man. I'm very 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 proud of this product they're putting out.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. Spider-Man is the one character where it seems like you can pass that mantle on and it clicks with other people. Whereas you're right, Spider-Man and Batman or Superman and Batman, you just kind of want to see Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. And like if there's other versions, okay, like Superboy's cool and Supergirl's cool, but like, there's only one Superman. Whereas with Spider-Man, there's a reason why he's the number one comic property and the ability to like translate, that everyman that Peter Parker or Spider-Man is translates to everybody. And
Hmm.
so you give other people those powers and it just works. Now, the probably the most interesting version of Spider-Man in this movie is another character I was not familiar with at all. And that's Peter Porker Spider Ham, who is a character looked like he's like straight out of like Looney Tunes or something. He even says that's all folks at one point, and then someone goes, "Can he legally say that?" Um, is Spider Ham like is he a presence in the comics? Are you familiar with Peter Porker?
I've never came across him in the comic books. That's something that's I don't know if he might actually be a Spider-Man character. I've never came across him at all. The that was when I saw that I was like, what the fuck? What is what is going on here? So I don't know if that was something that they just made for the movies or maybe he is a comic book character in the storyline, but I've never came across him at all.
I do like how when he's giving his origin story, they all say, "My name is Peter Parker, and I was bitten by a radioactive spider," and he's like, "My name is Peter Porker, and I was bitten by a radioactive pig," like just to kind of change it up. And John Mulaney's like such great casting for this, and apparently he really took the character and kind of expanded upon it and made it like his lines were there weren't a ton of lines, but because he's so funny and so good at like riffing off of this ridiculous character, he
Yeah.
made it into a bigger role than it was originally supposed to be. So very cool, and also it's a nice like comedic addition to the movie. So I don't know. I enjoyed Peter Porker Spider Ham.
I
The
did
the
too.
yeah, the
I
one
did.
that's probably the most. I mean, as far as like far out futuristic, of course, is Penny Parker with her. She has like it's like an anime kind of character. She's got this like biomechanical suit or whatever. It's like this mech suit, which is cool. There's kind of like an Iron Man kind of a Lex Luthor. He has like a war suit that he uses to fight Superman in the comics. I did like that addition, but I'd never heard of that version of the character. And Yeah,
I never knew a Spider-Man, Spider-Girl anime character was even out there. I've never heard of
yeah.
her before. She was dope though, with the machine and everything. I mean, I thought she was dope. I've never seen her before, so I don't know if that's somebody that's just created for the book for the movie itself.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was very interesting for sure.
Yeah, she's from 3145, so the
Jeez.
distant future.
Oof.
Um, but there is an Asian American version of Spider-Man that's Silk, which I think we're gonna see in probably in this next movie, if not
Hmm.
the final movie. And that's probably a character we're gonna see in live action also. I feel like a lot of these characters, I don't think Peter Porker is coming to live action, but I do think that we're gonna see 2099. We're gonna see Spider-Man Noir possibly. Um, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the Spider Verse is so massive. That's why when you look at Sony, Sony's got two things in my mind. They've got PlayStation and they've got Spider Man, and like those those are keeping the lights on. Those two entities. After that, I'm not really sure what they have. They have other stuff too, but those are their main selling points in my mind. Um, let's talk about some of the big moments in the movie. What were some of your favorite things that we haven't touched on as far as like scenes or moments?
Oh man, one of my favorite scenes, man, is just like the connection between Gwen and Miles, like how they met in school, and like he had a crush on her, but he had no idea that she was, a Spider Woman, and like the maturation of the friendship slash, I don't know, pseudo love interest, I guess, throughout the movie, how
Mhm.
it got stronger and stronger throughout the movie, and how they connected and became best friends, and like I think I think that connection helped plant the seeds for the second movie because she'll be back. So
Yeah,
I think Haley Stanford did a great job with her, and like I just love the synergy between those two. And it's very rare people can say, "Oh man, the synergy between these two characters was great," but like even though it's animated,
right.
but you can see it, and like
Yeah.
yeah, and I love the connection with those two throughout the movie, and I can't wait to see what more that duo has to bring for the sequel.
Yeah, and in this movie, the other Spider-Man or the other spider people or spider creatures, whatever you're gonna call them, they're in Miles's dimension, but they have to go back to their own dimension. Otherwise, they're I guess they'll basically die or they'll be stuck in his dimension. So they all have to leave as Miles uh, is able to destroy the collider. He throws Kingpin into the collider and destroys it. But at the very end of the movie, we see that Gwen has found a way to contact Miles from her dimension,
Hmm.
and that's in the trailer for the Across the Spider Verse. So obviously, it's cool that she's found a way to tap into the other dimension so that they can stay in contact. And then, of course, in the sequel, Miles is gonna go back into the Spider Verse with her and go on this crazy adventure. But yeah, this movie just they really knew what they were doing. They put all these pieces together and it could have been a mess, but like it kind of works perfectly. Like I don't really have any like critiques about this movie. I mean, there's characters I don't know, but like it's pretty flawless. Like it's funny, it's got heart, it's not too long. I mean, the sequel is actually 2.5 hours, I believe. So it's a little bit longer movie.
Mm.
Yeah, this movie was like 157, right under 2 hours. The sequel's longer, but I mean, I think that's just because there's so many characters. I mean, this movie had a lot of characters, but the next movie is probably gonna need 10 times the number of characters just from like watching yeah, sure, there's gonna be 3 or 4 that are the main characters, but the fact that we'll get Peter B. Parker reunited with Miles and Spider Gwen, and obviously Spider-Man 2099 is gonna be, you know, right up there with Miles as one of the main characters. There's just a lot to the Spider-Verse to explore, and, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. This is a great way just to introduce all these characters that later on can be spun off into their own live action movies or into their own Spider-Man universe on the big screen with whoever they pick for their Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if Sony does this right, I mean, you can have not only just Peter Parker, but Miles and Spider Gwen and Miguel O'Hara. I mean, you can have so many different Spider entities in live action and make more money off them too. Because case in point, Miguel is Latino. He's Irish Latino descent. So that could bring a whole nother demographic of fans.
Mhm.
Miles Morales is Afro Latino, and Gwen is a Caucasian woman. So like you could bring so many different entities and fan bases alike to the big screen and make more money off of them, not just Peter Parker's moniker. So yeah, they have a gold mine if they do it right.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the next movie is gonna make a ton of money. One of my favorite scenes we haven't talked about is the part where they all visit Aunt May, and she has this like suit,
Yeah.
this like spider shed in the backyard, and it basically, they get in the shed and they take this elevator and they basically go into like what is the Bat Cave. It's like I never thought about Spider-Man having like a Bat Cave where he's got like all these cool suits and these like fancy vehicles. Is the spider shed or the spider cave, is that something that you see in the comics, or is that solely you think for this movie?
Spider-Man does have a basement full of spider stuff. It's not a shed, but he does have a
Yeah.
basement, and Aunt May does know that he's Spider-Man in this incarnation. She found out later on, but that's kind of like the story that kicks off how Peter Parker dies because she knows, and like
Yeah.
she kind of works in coincides with Peter Parker helping him, with his gadgets, things like that, and they use a lot of Uncle Ben's um artifacts as well for his suits and stuff too. So that's a cool thing about that incarnation, that Aunt May like works side by side, kind of like an Alfred in a way to
Yeah. Yeah.
to that Peter Parker. And yeah, so
Yeah, it's a good point. She is like Alfred for Spider-Man, and she even helps Miles in this movie. She helps Miles basically kind of create his suit, or she gives him like one of Peter's other suits, and they spray paint it and all that stuff, and yeah, it just looks really cool. Um, the characters in this movie are just phenomenal, and just the whole world they've created is it's so aesthetically pleasing. Like it's just I've told people that don't even like these kind of movies, I say, even if you don't like superheroes or don't care about these kind of stories, you should just watch this movie because it's like art. It's just like it's I don't know. I've never seen a movie like this where it's just so like it's so pretty, but like the colors are so there's a contrast and
hmm
it just works. This movie just works on like every level. And like I said, we've never talked about an Academy Award winning movie until today. This is the first one, and maybe for good reason. This movie is very deserving of all the accolades, and yeah, I can't wait for the sequel. I'm seeing it tomorrow. So as we record this today, I'm really hyped to see the movie tomorrow.
I'm so
Uh,
jealous. I'm so jealous you're seeing it tomorrow, man. I'm so jealous.
well, you're seeing it the
Golly.
next day, so you're gonna see it. Yeah,
I know, but like you're gonna know what's gonna happen. I know you're gonna say
yeah, but
something.
I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it. So Frank, do you have any like final thoughts on Into the Spider Verse?
Oh man, I really want to see who they bring to the live screen, man. Like, the producer Amy Pascal,
Yeah.
she confirmed today that there will be a live action Miles Morales movie. Now, when we're gonna get it, we don't know.
Yeah.
So, like now knowing that, it just makes me excited to find out. And look, this is genius publicity. Like she says, is literally the day before the movie comes out. So like, I think that they've known for a while and like just waiting for us to confirm. But I kind of want to see who else might come along with the live action version with Miles. Could it be Spider Gwen? Could it be Miguel O'Hara? Like I want to see how this ends and what Easter eggs may go into the third movie and what may go into a live action feature. So
Mhm.
I'm excited, man. I mean, they do a great job with these movies, and I can't wait to see how this picture's gonna look. Cause like the other picture, the last one was very colorful and very like animated as far as the designs. I can't wait to see the stylistics for this movie, how it looks going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I just thought about this. I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, this movie's Into the Spider Verse. The next movie is Across the Spider Verse, and the one that comes out in March is Beyond the Spider Verse. I wouldn't be surprised that in Beyond the Spider Verse, at the end of that movie, they're going to cross over into a live action world. That kind of makes sense because when you say Beyond the Spider Verse, maybe that means you're going into a world, or I mean, obviously, a live action world could be a part of the Spider Verse. I mean,
That'd be dope.
we kind of saw that multiverse of madness when Doctor Strange is going through all those multiverses. We saw one that was like kind of, I think there was like an animated one or something. I mean, there
Hmm.
was some that was they didn't stick too much, they didn't spend too much time on it, but like you could do that where you could have, have a animated, mostly animated world or universe, and then cross over with a live action one. And that would, to me, that would be make the most sense to, introduce these characters and keep them going. So
Yeah, I wonder how they're gonna do it. I wonder if they're gonna just have him fall out of the multiverse into the live action, or like
yeah.
completely just like rewrite his story and like create a actual whole version of him and his family in the live version. So that's what I wonder.
And that could be a cool way also to bring back, whether it's Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland or all three of them, to have those three people have a cameo in that movie. That would be like as a live action cameo. That'd be a cool way to like bring those characters back in and obviously introduce the live action Miles, and then you're just off and running with all these different characters and all these different movies and so many storylines that honestly I don't know that they know what to do with them. Like, like they're telling all these story, like they've had two Venom movies, they had a Morbius movie, they've got a Craven movie coming out in October. I think the Craven movie is actually rated R, so that's gonna be a little bit different from the other movies of this universe. But
Hmm.
it just seems like with Spider-Man, there's just an endless amount of characters, and I can't wait to see what's next. Honestly,
Aren't they having a Black Cat movie too?
that's been in talks for a long time, but I don't think that's actually happening.
Okay.
Or if it is, it's like on the like it or it's like, not even in development. It's like on the back burner. And I mean, I feel like Black Cat will be, if not in her own movie, will be a character in an upcoming Spider-Man movie, you would think pretty soon, right?
Hmm.
Like, especially with how we left off Tom Holland's version in No Way Home, where no one knows he's Spider-Man except for, and no one knows no one knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So now you can take him on a whole new journey, whole new adventure with different characters, and you can introduce, people like Black Cat, she's never been on live screen on the big screen, right? We've never seen a live action version of Black Cat.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, not live action version. Just only the version I remember is the animated Spider-Man series that came out in the '90s. That
Yep.
anime version
Yep.
for her. Yeah.
I remember that too. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe she's in Across the Spider Verse. She very well could be. I mean, you got to think you're eventually going to have to. Although I guess she's more associated with Peter and not Miles, right?
Yeah, more with Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there is a Black Cat in the Miles Morales universe. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, it's interesting. These are, if you're a Spider-Man fan, this is a good time to be a Spider-Man fan because there's a lot of stuff. I mean, Spider-Man's obviously been very popular for a long time, and I mean, this is the ninth. Into the Spider-Verse is the ninth Spider-Man movie. Across the Spider-Verse will be the 10th. So there's a lot of Spider-Man content out, but I feel like right now it's really really good. Like with the movies, Far From Home made 1 billion. No Way Home made almost 2 billion. You had Into the Spider Verse, win the Academy Award. You've got the next one coming out this week. A lot of cool stuff in the works in the world of Spider Man, and we'll be talking about it. We'll be back next week to discuss Across the Spider Verse. So, Frank, before we get out of here, any other final thoughts you want to mention?
Um, no, man, I can't wait for this movie to come out. I'm probably gonna see it about 5 or 10 times in the theaters if it's great. It's gonna be great. Um, I'm just excited to see more minority characters, take flight in the MCU. And I think Miles, his story being told is gonna promote other publications to really focus on their minority characters as well. And I mean, we already see it. There's been rumors about a Black Spider-Man. I mean, a Black Superman in
Yeah,
the DC comic books now, of like from another story timeline. So
Yeah.
I like seeing these stories being told of like these new unique characters because like it can get redundant
Yeah.
rehashing and rebooting a Batman, a Spider-Man, Superman every 5 or 6 years. So
Yeah.
they're doing it the right way, and they're creating a separate entity of this character and not having so intertwined with the main timeline character. So
Yeah.
shout out to Marvel, man. I can't wait to see what they got next for this character.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is like I said, this is like such a great way to pass the mantle on to a new character. But you're not getting rid of Peter Parker, and you're but then again, you're not saying, "Oh, this is the black Peter Parker." No, this is Miles Morales. This is a different person who is Spider-Man, who could be the Spider-Man now, and in the future we may pass the mantle to somebody else. But you're always going to have Peter Parker. Now you've got Miles. Whoever's next is whoever's next, but it's just a smart way to keep it going to kind of pass the baton. And for some people, Spider-Man will always be Peter Parker. For other people, it's going to be Miles. For who knows? Other people, maybe it's Spider-Man 2099, or maybe it's Spider Gwen, or it's who knows? Peter Porker might be your guy. I don't know. Like but there's kind of something for everybody.
And that's a good point of like making a name for himself, not calling him Peter Parker and he's black in this universe. Like
Yeah,
actually like call him a different name, different origin story,
yeah,
different, family background. That was smart because I could see the outrage of like black Peter Parker and like he's Latino and African American and like not like giving him his actual identity a separate name. So yeah,
yeah.
that's a good job by Marvel not being lazy in that standpoint.
And that's something that I think that DC might have a problem with. There is that Black Superman movie that apparently is kind of in the works, and J.J. Abrams is producing, maybe directing, and Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing the movie or has written the script. There are Black Supermen in the comics. There's a few different versions of Black Superman. Um, and I think they should choose one of those characters and make that the protagonist of their story. Because if you
Hmm.
make Clark Kent just a black Clark Kent, it's like we've already seen Clark Kent's story over and over.
Hmm.
Give us somebody new. Yes, someone he might have the same powers as Superman, but there's a different story behind these characters, and that's what Marvel's done so well. Miles Morales, called Spider-Man like Peter Parker is, but it's a different Spider-Man, and he has different abilities, different look. Maybe entices a different audience, but it's a very smart way to further your characters and reach a new audience. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they do go a different route with Superman, focus on Calvin Ellis, man. He's
yeah,
from Earth 23.
yeah,
He has a whole different identity and I think in Earth 23 he's president of the United States. So
right,
he's like he's
yeah.
doing that and
Calvin Ellis is like based on a Superman who's like kind of like a Barack Obama, like a Barack Obama like version of Superman. That's why
yeah,
they came up with that story. There's also Valzad, who's also a black Superman. They could use that character too,
they have a bar as well from like 1975 or something.
right?
He's
There
way
was
back in
talk
the
of
day.
Michael B. Jordan was going to play one of these characters potentially, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So
Hmm.
who knows? But Marvel's definitely got it right with Miles Morales, and really think about Miles Morales. He's only been around since 2011. So for the fact this movie, his story was told in 2018, that's pretty quick to, much like Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel, I think the story her she was created in 2014, and by 2022 she had a series on Disney Plus. So you're
Yeah,
turning around these characters pretty quickly and introducing characters that were literally just on the pages of the comic books. So they're doing a good
yeah.
job of getting those people out there.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean the turnaround is crazy and like the comic book nerd community, man, like they are a powerful community. When they're buying but kind of buying issues and like ranting online and pushing for characters, man, that's when in 2016 they were pushing for a Miles Morales movie. Like the comic book fan. I
yeah,
remember seeing like the message boards and like people were like, we need a Miles Morales movie. So like and Hollywood was listening. They were listening.
yeah,
So if there's a general interest, a general excitement for a character and it's profitable, if they think it's profitable, they're gonna make money. They're gonna try to make money about it. I mean, with Captain Marvel, for example, Civil War Two was in 20, I want to say 2018. She was the main focal point in Civil War Two in the comic books with
Right.
with Iron Man. So the incarnation of Captain Marvel and how quickly she rose to fame in the Marvel comic book universe was at an accelerated pace. So
Yeah, no, it as always. It seems like Marvel is like just a step ahead of DC. And hopefully, DC will catch up. But no, this Marvel knows what they're doing. Whether it's Sony Marvel or Disney Marvel, they're both doing okay. So anyway, that's our review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now you know what we thought about it. We want to know what you think about it. The best way to do that is to join us for our live chats, like one of these we're doing right now, the live stream experience. And hey, if you're watching this now or later, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out. Also, hey, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at Watchers Basement, and be sure to use the hashtag Watchers Basement. We appreciate that also. And hey, if video's not your thing, don't worry, we got you covered. We got audio versions of the podcast. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And hey, if you're listening to us on one of those podcasts, give us or one of those platforms, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out, and we appreciate it. So once again, thanks to Frank for joining me. So for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Mouse for life.